So tonight I finished off another filmography because this is a very short filmography, and that is director Kasi Lemmons. I actually, the first of her films that I saw was her most recent film, which was from a few years ago called um, Black Nativity. I saw it in theaters and I quite enjoyed it. And then last year I went back and watched um, Eve's Bayou, which was a film I had been meaning to see for a long time and hadn't watched it on Netflix last year, and it was great. And then I can't remember now if I watched it last year or early this year, but I think it must have been last year. I watched Talk to Me, which I remember the trailers for when I was in college, but didn't go see, even though I am a big fan of Don Cheadle, but I was probably too poor to go see it. So, having seen those three, I had one left, and I finally tracked it down. And this was her second film, also starring Samuel L. Jackson, who's in Eve's Bayou. This one's called The Caveman's Valentine. It was not well received. It was, however, released just after 9/11. I think it was, oh no, just before 9/11. I thought I had read that it was released in September, and now I'm seeing that's March. Anyways, it's very, oh, Siri just turned on. Siri, go away. Isn't it funny? You can just say Siri, go away, and Siri turns off. Okay, that's not what I was trying to say. Okay, I thought I had read that it was released in September, and I was gonna equate the terrible reviews with the post 9/11 depression because it's sort of a weird, dark New York movie, but I can't make that statement now because I just noticed that it was released in March of 2001. Oops. But anyways, it's a dark, weird, uh, almost operatic murder mystery about starring a man who is homeless and is a paranoid schizophrenic who lives in a cave. So you've got a lot going on because you've got his interior and sort of a visualization of the interior of his interior, and that stuff is beautiful. It's all this great like modern dance type stuff in his head. If you've seen Something New, they go see a modern dance in that film, and it reminded me, the scenes in this of the sort of moth people that live in his head reminded me of the dance sequence in Something New. Very modern. He's a pianist who at one point went to Juilliard. He still knows a lot of fancy people. They never quite explain how he wound up on the street, but as we know from many a paranoid schizophrenic, they just leave their family and their families are unable to, get them the help they need. So this is sort of the story of that. You just sort of imagine that the family has tried many times. You see glimpses of the family. You see his daughter, who's now a police officer. So when he gets himself entangled in this murder mystery, that's helpful. And you see his wife, but what you see is a younger version of his wife, because it's the version of his wife that he still imagines, who's not actually who his wife is now. And you never actually see the wife as she is now. That's all the sort of trappings on the outside. Then you've got the actual plot, which has to do with the title, Caveman's Valentine. It was Valentine's Day, and he finds a dead man on his steps, basically. He's frozen in a tree, and he takes it on himself to solve this crime. Partly because he thinks he knows the guy, and partly because he thinks the guy had asked him for help and he didn't help him, and partly because he wants to prove to his daughter that he still can do something. This is where the film gets kind of off the rails a little bit because part of it. So you've got this like commentary on like New York art world because there's this photographer and maybe he's torturing his models, and maybe he's just a pretentious artist. I don't know. He lives out in the country. Somehow Samuel L. Jackson character is able to get back and forth from the park to the country, and they show once him hitchhiking, but I guess you just imagine that people would pick him up over and over again, but it seems like that's one of many logical jumps that don't quite jive. Colm Fiore plays the photographer. He's quite good. And Anne Magnuson plays his sister, and she's always good. You also have, out of nowhere, for no apparent reason, Anthony Michael Hall and can't remember who the other actress is, as this super rich couple that sort of befriend him and like loan him a suit. And at one point, he takes a shower and you can see his butt, which is a very nice butt. And but there's commentary on sort of the way people, the way that kind of New Yorker will ignore or sort of patronize the people living on the street. And so at first, Anthony Michael Hall sort of patronizes this character, and then when he finds out that he went to Juilliard and really proves that he's went to Juilliard, he helps him out. But before he helps him out, he still makes him play the piano one more time, and it's all kind of creepy and gross. And I think one of many layers of commentary that Lemmons and screenwriter George Dawes Green are sort of making on New York society. And this is based on a novel by George Dawes Green as well. And so then the mystery gets more and more convoluted, but also sort of run of the mill at the same time, as the inner workings of his head get more and more complicated. And so then the film gets more and more preposterous. And if it wasn't so beautifully shot and so artistically solid in the vision that Lemmons has, it would be terrible. And I think that's why a lot of people found it terrible. I thought it worked for me, even though it didn't feel grounded in any sense of the word. I just went with it because it was so beautiful. And it's the cinematographer is Amelia Vincent. I'm not sure if I've seen anything shot by her before, but I don't believe I've ever seen Samuel L. Jackson so beautifully photographed. Like every single shot of him, he looks so handsome and so just beautiful. And you can see that both Lemmons and Vincent understand the nuance of Jackson as a photographable subject, and it's really nice to see him shot in a way that reminded me sort of the way women in the 30s were shot, where they're just so beautifully lit, so beautifully framed, that with such care, and that's how he's shot in this film. It's really nice to see. It's also one of his best performances. He just really goes for it, and I can't imagine anyone else quite playing this role, and I can't imagine the film working without Jackson being so good. So it's one of those films that's sort of a hot mess, but it works because of the strength of the artistic vision and Jackson as a performer. So you just have to go with it. And if you don't go with the film, you're probably not going to like it. And you'll probably nitpick it more than even I just did. So anyways, I enjoyed this film. It's available on DVD. You should check it out. It's from 2001. Don't read any reviews. Don't read the plot. I already sort of gave you the plot. Just delve into it and see what comes from it. This was Kasi Lemmons' The Caveman's Valentine from 2001, starring Samuel L. Jackson. I mostly liked it.